Converting online leads into clients can feel like trying to wrangle a bull without a lasso. I want to arm you with the right skills and the right knowledge so that you can double or even triple your online lead conversion. If you do this right, you can convert way more leads and do more with a lot less. And so in order to do that, I want to take you guys through a few very important things that you need to be doing and thinking about when you're making these calls. First, scripts suck. I know. Every single online guru, coach, trainer says you have to use a script. Scripts are nice and they give you structure and they tell you what to do. But the problem with scripts is that they don't generate good conversation. And when you're not generating great conversation with people you're calling, they don't want to talk to you, they're not going to give you good answers, and they're probably not going to take your calls in the future. So we want to make sure we're having real conversations as opposed to a scripted one that doesn't actually build any kind of relationship with the lead. Have you ever had a telemarketer call you and try to sell you something? They probably went through line after line, heedless of your wants and needs, simply trying to go to the finish line with their script. It probably didn't work, and if you didn't hang up on them, I'm sure you didn't buy from them. In order for us to avoid that pitfall, we need to have a general understanding of how a conversation goes and how we can actually maneuver without just asking question after question and making it seem like an interrogation. You really want to get to a point where you're focusing in on individual conversational pieces. So for example, if you're chatting with somebody about their needs and their wants and where they're looking for a home, how are you going to ask those questions and what are you going to say when those questions are answered? Because it's not going to be question, question, question. It should be you asking a question, them replying, and you adding some of your own input and conversational flavor. And then we're moving on to the next question. So that way it feels more like a conversation. Now we need to focus on what our goals are, because before you pick up the phone and start making phone calls, we need to determine why are you calling people and what are you going to be talking about and what are you trying to achieve. If you're not thinking about your goals, you're not going to take the conversation and lead it where it needs to go, because now you're aimlessly wandering around without really knowing what you're trying to achieve. So in order to avoid this, have your goals picked out from before you even make the call. First calls are critical. If you don't make the right impression, you're probably never speaking to that person again. So what are we focusing on when we're calling somebody for the very first time? The things that are very important are going to be timing, motivation, and building rapport. Those are all critical. We want to find out the timing and the motivation, but we also want to start building rapport so that this person actually wants to talk to us and picks up the phone the next time that we call them to follow up. In order for us to properly help this person find the right home, we need to know what their timeline is. Are they looking right now, or are they looking in 12 months? Because the conversation is going to be very different depending on when they actually want to move into a home. If they're just in the beginning phases and maybe they're a year or two out, we know that we're going to be focusing more on trying to narrow down what they're looking for and helping guide them to the right product. Whereas somebody who's been looking for maybe 3 or 6 months, just hasn't found the right thing but is ready to make the move immediately, has a much better understanding of what their needs are and might have even gone out to look at properties. So if we're providing the wrong type of information and the wrong type of advice to a more savvy, more experienced buyer, they might not see any value in it and they might actually not want to talk to us anymore because they think it's a waste of their time. Knowing the motivation is going to help us understand what is really driving their home search. And this goes hand in hand with knowing their timing. Remember, when you're chatting with somebody for the very first time, they might not be very forthcoming. In fact, a lot of people might say, I'm just browsing. Think of yourself going into a store looking for a pair of sneakers. An employee might come up and ask you, hey, do you need any help? Are you looking for anything specific? You're gonna say, no, I'm just browsing. That's your natural instinct because you don't want to get roped into talking to somebody for the next 10 minutes and having them sell you something. That is exactly what we want to avoid becoming, is that salesperson. This is why we need to figure these things out so that we can better cater everything that we say to what their needs and expectations are. Once we know the motivation, we want to line it up with their timeline and see if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, maybe we simply don't have enough rapport yet with this person for them to open up and tell us what exactly is going on. Knowing the motivation is also going to help you find them the right home. If they tell you that they just had a newborn baby and they don't have enough space, that tells you a lot about the kind of property that they're going to be looking for. They need more space, they need more bedrooms, and they probably need it relatively quick. The last piece of the puzzle in this case is going to be building that rapport. We do this in 2 ways. One, we're going to be having a real conversation conversation and establishing a social relationship with this person. We're going to learn about their needs, their wants, who they are, and we're going to hopefully have some good banter, maybe even make them laugh a couple of times. If you can make people laugh, you're going to do very well. The second part of this is you want to start showing value. When you show value, you're showing to them that you're a good option to work with, you're a good realtor, you know what you're doing, and you have information that they need and that they should come to you with their questions. This is critical, especially with leads that are looking online with maybe 3, 4, 5 different websites. They could have a bunch of agents calling them. And if you're just one of the other guys that's saying the same exact thing, why are they going to work with you? You can show value and show your expertise by discussing communities and the kind of homes they're looking for and construction elements of homes that is relevant to them. If they're looking for a mature home, you can talk about things like the roof, windows, mechanical. Those are all things that are going to need maintenance, and they don't want to spend money doing it, probably, unless they're doing a renovation, in which case maybe they do want to spend that money. But the point is, when we demonstrate our mastery of the product that they're looking for and the different areas, they're much more likely to receive our information and want to work with us. The final element I want to talk about today is going to be catering to their DISC profile. If you don't know what DISC profile is, Google it or check out my links in the description, because I am going to have a bunch of additional information. This is critical. You want to be able to talk to people based on how they want to be talked to. If you're talking to somebody in the wrong way because you're not matching up with their DISC profile, they're not going to want to talk to you. When you understand your own DISC profile and the DISC profile of the person you're talking with, your chance of having a true and meaningful connection goes way up. If you're high C, like me, and you're talking with the high I, and you are very monotone and you're going into unnecessary details and you're not being very social, they don't want to talk to you. They're probably going to hang up and never take your calls again. This is something that for me took time to get used to. And before I learned the DISC profile, I was doing this all the time without even realizing it. You can't talk to everybody the way that you like to be talked to. You have to cater to their specific personality, or else they're going to be bored, or they're going to feel that they're just not connecting with you and something isn't right. When you understand the DISC profile of other people, you can better anticipate their fears and what some of their hesitations might be. For example, a high S is very worried about you pressuring them into buying a home. So make sure to communicate to them that that's not the case. You're not going to be pressuring them into doing anything. How you say it, though, is very important. You don't want to say, hey, I'm not going to pressure you. It gets the message across, but it sounds cheesy and they might not actually believe you because it sounds like a sales line. Instead, say something along the lines of, I want to make sure that you're 100% comfortable with the area and the type of home that you're looking for before we make the decision to pull the trigger. When you say something like that, you're communicating subconsciously that you're not going to be pressuring them, that you want them to feel comfortable before doing anything, and they're a lot more likely to believe you and a lot more likely to want to work with you. Finally, you need to practice. If you aren't practicing by role-playing with either friends, colleagues, family members, or just by yourself, that means you're practicing on your leads and you're wasting your opportunities. Role-playing is one of the best ways for you to learn how to actually make good phone calls. There's a lot more that goes into online lead conversion than this, but with these tools, you're going to have a nice baseline and you can build from here.